You're listening to the Modern Mainframe, BMC's Intelligence-Z Optimization and Transformation podcast, covering the latest trends and issues in mainframe DevOps, data, operations, security, and cloud. You've never mainframed like this. Welcome to the Modern Mainframe. I'm Matt Dallaire. Today we're talking about automating your mainframe operations, why it's become necessary, the benefits it unlocks, and how to get started if you haven't already. Joining me for today's discussion are BMC Principal Product Manager Paul Spicer, Senior Principal Solution Engineer Gilles Robert, and Senior Solution Engineer Stephen Dzikowski. To set the stage a bit for our conversation, the 2024 BMC Mainframe Survey shows that mainframe shops, especially larger shops, continue to see an increase in transaction volume and, as it follows, data volume. This is happening as organizations are challenged with ensuring the resilience of increasingly complex systems while navigating the retirement of seasoned professionals and the onboarding of new talent. Automation stands out as an attractive solution to these challenges. But to really maximize its effects, that automation needs to be accessible, integrated, and actionable. And that's what we'll be discussing today. So Paul, I'd like to turn to you first. What are the challenges with scaling manual operations to meet these issues, and how does this automation help mitigate them?
Yeah, so without automation, it makes life very, very complicated. There are more systems these days than there were ever before. There's more going on each of those systems. So there's literally thousands and thousands of messages being displayed, almost continuously. That if you didn't have automation, someone would have to be sitting there looking at all of those messages and trying to figure out, what they need to do. Maybe they just need to ignore them, but they have to know to do that, or maybe there's some response that's necessary. And again, with thousands of these coming up, that's obviously not going to be easy. So, there really is just so much going on. There's just no way that anyone can keep up with it. And automation just absolutely has to be there to take that load off and at least, kind of filter things down and just make sure the things that do need to be looked at perhaps are surfaced, but all the others just, some kind of action taken, whether it's just say hiding the message, taking some kind of notification to alert on it, responding, all those kinds of things. There's just no way you can keep up manually these days with the load that's going on.
Stephen, we've mentioned workforce challenges and how they're affecting mainframe operations. How does automation help alleviate some of these issues caused by the shift in workforce demographics and make operations more accessible?
I could see the workforce being a big driver in making sure automation is up to speed on all systems. You're going to have your newer in career people that may not know all of the ins and outs. They may not know what's going on with the system, or even if they detect it, they may not even know how to respond to it. So with using automation, we're going to be using all of the knowledge of the past generations and the people that have run into this before. We're going to be reacting to it instantly. So it's going to relieve a lot of the stress on the newer in workforce. It's also going to, stop a lot of downtime, right? That's what we're most worried about with automation. Just keep everything running as good as it can. So it really has a twofold part in keeping the system up and running as good as it can, while also taking the stress off the newer in the workforce to be able to do their job.
Gilles, can you touch on how this might help the more senior staff and the organization as a whole, beyond just helping onboard new talent?
Yes, the mainframe evolve is not a static platform. So there's evolution in the mainframe. So experienced people and then in the paradigm where you try to achieve more with less, having a modern tool to do automation, having the type of engine that we provide that makes it easier to implement and maintain automation but with simplified rule that brings a lot of benefits to the table for experienced people. So, for example, there's some classic case. A lot of the instances you have some sort of performance issue where you want to trigger automation. And then the key point of that is you're trying to get the correct diagnostic at the point in time when there is an issue with performance, having the capability to capture various diagnostic interacting with the AMI-Ops monitor that is part of the equation and through a simplified rule that makes that aspect of it really easy to do.
And that leads to faster decision making and more confidence that you're doing the right thing, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah, that's it because this is a classic case. I mean, I have helped many customers over the year achieve that state where when something happened, they are capable of easily capturing the final diagnostic in order to quickly fix the issue.
So, one of the reasons for the increased complexity of systems is integrating the mainframe not only with other systems, but with modern processes that may go beyond traditional monitoring and response. So, Gilles, I'll keep it with you. Why is it important for automation to integrate with ITSM, DevOps, observability tools, etc.?
Right. I would say because the application today are is not just only on the mainframe, so they're part of a bigger infrastructure where multiple platforms, like it's in today's world, 24 by 7, you have people that use their phone to connect to the application that is being eventually have process run on the mainframe. The business driver for this is our customer needs to know what is the big picture here, where if there is an issue on the mainframe or on another platform that impact the business, the resolution or the automation or the orchestration or all of that needs to be done in a enterprise-wide point of view. So you might say, I have an event here that happens on the mainframe, correlate that with some event that runs on another platform, and have somewhere the decision maker that will say, hey, we need to drive back automation and there's those various platforms to resolve the situation. So a classic example would be like we have an event, we may create potentially a problem ticket in ITSM, and then there might be a decision that or a flow that goes there and decide and then look at what change happened recently to that mainframe object or to the other platform object, and again drive back the the mean time to resolve and the mean time to detect smaller. So the faster you can find a problem, the faster you can resolve it, means that the business is running in the best possible fashion.
Paul, how does BMC AMI Ops monitoring trigger automation rules? What's the mechanism there?
Right. So basically, in the ops monitors, you can create alarms, which are the thresholds on certain metrics, that if they exceed certain amounts, so that kind of thing, they can trigger an alarm, which will then drive an event into ops automation. And then from there, you can create a rule to take action on that alarm. And it can be multiple things, like Jules mentioned, like, for example, collecting additional diagnostics so you can gather them all up at the time that the problem happened and look at them later, that kind of thing. Or it could be simple thing like, opening a ticket in your incident system, and pretty much anything you like. And the nice thing about it is it's dead easy to set up the alarms in the monitors. It's also very easy to set up the automation in the automation tools. Um, a lot of traditional products, they require you to write like rec text and long scripts, and that's difficult and complicated to do. But with ops automation, you can just fill in a few panels, fill in the blanks, and then take all the kind of actions that you and I have been talking about, without actually having to write any code at all. So the whole thing, from end to end, identifying a problem in the first place and taking action, ultimately, based on that event occurring, is very, very simple and straightforward, easy to do. So yes, a pretty powerful way of working in ops.
And this ties back, I think, to what we discussed earlier. When you make onboarding a bit easier and faster for newer talent, you make workflows more consistent, you can free senior staff for greater work, and it also shows in the bottom line of time taken to detect and resolve issues. Stephen, can you discuss that a little bit?
So to kind of add on what Paul was saying, we really get a lot of value off of being able to go through and more or less fill in the blank to get these rules set up, right? If I don't have the knowledge that Gilles has, I could still probably go through and I could say, okay, this is the criteria I'm looking for. This is what I want it to do. And I can go ahead and fill all those out. I'm not sitting there trying to learn a whole coding language. I'm not writing out a Rex program. I'm not doing anything like that. So we really can get those newer in workforce up to speed quicker, get them involved quicker. If it's just setting up a simple rule, I'm a lot more confident getting the early in career people to actually do that and to free up somebody like Gilles here to help out with, our disaster that's going on, right? So we can get them up to speed a lot quicker and less interaction from Gilles helping me out.
And now, if I may add on something on what Stephen just said, even experienced people, if you go back to something you write a long time ago, or if it's easier to maintain something that is a rule base, like fill in the blank, as opposed to read some programmatic interface or code that you've done a while back. It makes it a lot quicker to maintain it. And then one of the key aspect is the rule engine that we have in our product is because it's an engine as opposed to a program or Rex interpreted code, for example. It means that it's less overhead because it's done at in a very efficient manner because it's rule based, it's not code based. It's very, very effective. So you reduce your CPU overhead by having a rule engine the way we provide it.
I mentioned earlier that we're seeing an increase in transaction volume, and obviously following that, an increase in data volume. Gilles, how does the pairing of different tools in the mainframe ecosystem help manage this?
At BMC, we have a very tightly integrated solution. There, we're sharing a lot of infrastructure. We're sharing a lot of information. So, in the overall picture of running a business, we have monitor, we have automation, we have data recovery, we have SQL performance monitoring. We have a lot of functionality to optimize and drive the business very effectively. The fact that we are sharing a lot of integration or a lot of infrastructure allow us to gathers all of that information together, to integrate all of that information together. To I was going to use the synergy that it creates makes it like it's you're in a position where you get 1 + 1 equate 3 type of thing because of the tight integration that we have overall. So these all of our solution are architect to to feed from one another to get a better outcome.
We were working closely with several months ago, where they, of course, do their monitoring on platform, right? They do all their mainframe monitoring there. But like Gilles was saying, all these systems are so intertwined nowadays that they have a dashboard out there, a generic dashboard, which they're using the Common REST API to get all of that data that they're required to get. So at that point, they can utilize that, they can compare, they can match. And to Gilles's point, they then can react to it, right? And since the Common REST API works both ways, you can send that information back to the mainframe and have automation pick it up and do something with it. So these are real world situations that people are using it, not just hypothetical nice to haves. A step past that, we really can integrate heavily into automation as far as things like, let's say it's a ransomware attack, right? So the first thing when you get a ransomware attack is you have to detect it. So using something like our AMI security utilities, you figure out, okay, this is the exact point that it's happening. At that point, AMI security can kick off those automation tasks and get those back over to the mainframe to tell you to go ahead and start your AMI cloud recovery. So we're really taking just strictly automation, which in the past we're thinking about it from just like an operational standpoint, and we're integrating more things into it, which obviously security and recovery are huge nowadays, right? So I think we're really constantly adding new functionality, new features to the automation spectrum just to get the most value out of it.
I'll start with Paul, but I'd like to get some thoughts from each of you on what organizations should focus on as they bring automation into their mainframe operations, as well as what to avoid. So, Paul, do you have any suggestions on that?
I think as they start, I mean, they should be looking at the areas that where they're spending most of their time manually, and things that they could automate. I mean, there's some things perhaps you don't need to, but certainly the things that you find yourself doing all the time, the things that just there's just no need to do them manually. So that's kind of would be my starting point on there. I think trying to do everything all at once probably would be a bit ineffective, and they probably wouldn't make much progress. But say picking off the sort of the low hanging fruit first, the stuff that's easy to automate, and kind of build from there as they get kind of more experience with the things they can do. And the things they can do are as we've talked about today is pretty much limitless, right? I mean, you just need to drive some kind of event, whether that's coming from one of the other products, it could be coming from a REST API, it could be coming from within the monitors from just about anywhere. when you've got all these events that you can automate, and then kind of building out on that, taking actions to kind of cut down on all that manual work.
And from an automation standpoint, we typically automation is created because you've been burned with something. That's the trigger to say, hey, well, let's make sure that this does not happen again. So that's a very that's the paradigm that you should be working on. That being said, and included in our technology, we do provide a lot of out-of-the-box definition or automation that you can implement, so to basically get a fast implementation, or as we create those and look at them and make sure that instead of having to suffer through an impactful event, that you prevent it from the get-go, because we're putting intelligence in our technology so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time, so that and you don't need to get burned to react to something. In our functionality, we provide metrics on what the automation is doing. So not only we actually perform the automation, but we provide you with metric on what the automation did, how much it did, how much CPU it used, for example. So we allow the capability of fine-tuning the automation, not only just automate, but look at how we can make it better, how we can make it more efficient by providing metrics about what's is happening on that angle.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we've provided in the Ops Automation product is the ability to send some of the performance metrics around how your automation is performing, but sending them out to the advisors so you can see them, in a graphical way, in sort of highlighting the key aspects of it. So if you're using the advisor, those metrics can be there as well.
As we're nearing time, I'd like to give each of you the opportunity for any closing thoughts. Stephen?
Yeah, so one of the things we haven't really touched on that's just kind of where the world is going is AI and machine learning. So, I mean, we are getting there. BMC does have an AI machine learning AnyOps insight solution that is helping to detect those issues and then can kick out things that you can hook into automation. As AI advances, then obviously we'll be adding more and more features to it to get the most value out of it. So it's only going up.
Gilles?
The interface that we provide, part of the AMIOps product, allows you to run the interface on a tablet, for example, which makes it real easy with the fill in the blanks we have for engine rule to create automation through a variety of platforms. So making it like very simple for anyone new to the platform to go ahead and create automation without having to know the other underbelly of the operating system.
And to add on to that, Gilles, it's probably good to note that the way we implement it, it's all shared rules, right? So if you create your rule out there on 3270 and I have to tweak it and I'm more comfortable with the HTML5 GUI, then I can go out there to the HTML5 GUI and tweak that rule and fix it to however I need to. So we're not stuck in this person likes the old way, this person likes the new way. We're enabling you to get to your automation however you're most comfortable and to get your job done as quick as possible.
I think that's a great way to wrap it up. Very interesting conversation. Paul, Stephen, Gilles, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for sharing your thoughts on this.
It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome. Yeah.
And thank you to everyone listening. I'll include some links in the show notes for more information. Thanks again for spending some time with us today, and we'll talk to you next time on The Modern Mainframe. Take care. You're listening to The Modern Mainframe, BMC's Intelligence-Z Optimization and Transformation podcast, covering the latest trends and issues in mainframe DevOps, data, operations, security, and cloud. You've never mainframed like this.